All right, everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
You're here because you want to improve your English speaking and listening. Right. Take it to that next level. Yeah. Well, today we're diving straight into something that I think is a real game changer when it comes to mastering fluency.
I think so too.
And that is thinking in English.
Absolutely.
So this isn't about cramming more vocabulary words or trying to, wrap your head around complex grammatical structures.
Right.
It's about fundamentally changing how your brain processes the language.
Exactly.
And that makes a huge difference in how fluently and confidently you can speak.
It really does.
And that's exactly what we want to help you achieve today.
Yeah.
We want to help you move past that stage of constantly translating in your head.
Mm-hmm.
That mental back and forth that can slow you down and leave you feeling like you're always a step behind.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there, right?
Absolutely. I remember when I was living English, there were so many times when I'd be in a conversation and I'd want to say something. But by the time I'd translated everything in my head and figured out how to say it, the moment had passed.
Yeah.
And I just felt so frustrated.
It's like trying to catch up to a train that's already left the station.
Exactly.
But when you start thinking directly in English, it's like you're cutting out that middleman.
Right.
You're no longer translating everything. You're thinking directly in the language.
Right.
That makes it so much more immediate, so much more natural, and you feel so much more in control of what you're saying.
It really does make a huge difference.
So today we're sharing some really practical, actionable tips that you can start using today to make that shift to thinking in English.
Yeah.
We've also put together a free PDF guide that's packed with essential vocabulary and some really insightful ideas to enhance your English thinking even further. You can find the link to that in the description below, so be sure to grab it after the deep dive.
And to make sure you really understand everything we're talking about today, make sure you stick around until the end, when we'll be joined by our fantastic vocabulary expert, Charlotte.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
She'll be breaking down some of the key words and phrases we use today.
Awesome. So let's get started with tip number 1.
Okay.
Labeling objects around you.
Ah, classic.
This is such a simple technique, but it's so effective. I remember when I first started learning English, I covered my entire apartment in sticky notes.
Oh, wow.
Everything had a label, the table, the lamp, the remote control, you name it.
That's dedication.
I know it sounds a bit crazy, but it really helped me start thinking in English without even realizing it.
I can totally relate to that. I remember putting a sticky note on my mirror that just said mirror.
Oh, wow.
I know it sounds silly, but every morning I'd see that word and it would just reinforce the connection between the object and the English word.
Right.
And after a while, it just became automatic. I'd see a mirror and the word mirror would just pop into my head in English.
And that's the beauty of it, right? It really helps you create those automatic associations in your brain so you're not constantly translating in your head. By linking the object directly to the English word, you bypass that translation step.
It's like you're rewiring your brain to think in English.
Yeah, it's like hacking the system.
And the best part is that you're doing it passively just by going about your day.
Right. It's like passive learning. You're surrounded by these English words all the time, and your brain is just absorbing them naturally.
It's a great way to make English a natural part of your daily life.
So give it a try, guys. Label everything around you and let us know how it goes.
I'm sure you'll be surprised by how effective it is.
Now, moving on to tip number 2, using simple sentences in your thoughts.
Ah, yes. This is another really important one.
So when I first tried to force myself to think in English, I tried to make these really complex sentences in my head with perfect grammar and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was exhausting. It was so discouraging because I just couldn't keep up with it.
It's a common mistake that new language learners make.
Yeah.
To try to overcomplicate things.
Right.
And it just ends up being really frustrating.
Exactly. But then I realized I didn't need to do that.
Oh.
I could just start with really simple phrases, like, I am hungry. It is sunny today. I need to buy milk. Just basic things like that.
Right.
And it made such a difference. It was so much easier to manage, and it helped me get into the habit of thinking in English without feeling overwhelmed.
I think that's such a great point. Starting simple is so important.
Yeah.
And then you can gradually build up to more complex sentences as you get more comfortable.
Like learning to walk before you can run.
Exactly.
You need to master the basics first.
And those simple sentences, they're like building blocks. Once you have those down, you can start putting them together to form more complex thoughts.
And you can practice this anywhere at any time.
Yeah.
You're waiting for the bus. You can think The bus is late.
Mm-hmm.
You're walking down the street. You can think, I see a red car.
Right.
Just little things like that.
It keeps your mind engaged with the language.
Exactly. And it all adds up.
It really does.
So don't underestimate the power of simple sentences.
No, definitely not.
They're the foundation for fluency.
Absolutely.
Okay. So our next tip is all about talking to yourself in English.
Ah, yes, the power of self-talk.
Now, I know this might sound a little strange.
Yeah, some people might think you're crazy.
I know, right? But trust me, it really works.
It does.
I used to have full-blown conversations with myself in English.
Really?
I know it sounds a bit odd,
No, I get it.
but it was so helpful. I would just narrate everything I was doing.
Oh, like what?
Like if I was cooking, I'd say, okay, now I'm chopping the onions. I need to add some salt. I'm going to stir the sauce.
Wow.
Or if I was driving, I'd comment on the traffic or the scenery.
Interesting.
It might sound silly, but it's like having a constant practice partner.
Mm-hmm.
And the best part is there's no pressure. You
Yeah.
can make mistakes. You can experiment with different words and phrases, and no one's judging you.
Exactly. It's a safe space to practice.
And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
It really does.
It becomes second nature to think in English.
Absolutely.
And self-talk isn't just limited to narrating your actions.
Oh.
You can also use it to practice conversations you might have in the future.
Oh, like what kind of conversation?
Like imagine you have a job interview coming up.
Hmm.
You can practice answering common interview questions in English.
That's a great idea.
Or if you're going to a party, you can rehearse introductions and small talk in your head.
That's so smart. It really helps you prepare for those situations and build your confidence.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to talk to yourself, guys.
Yeah, embrace the power of self-talk.
It's a secret weapon for language learning.
It really is.
All right, moving on to tip number 4, changing the language settings on your devices and apps to English.
Ah, yes. This is a great way to immerse yourself in the language.
It really is. I remember when I first switched my phone's language to English.
Oh,
It's a bit of a challenge at first,
I bet.
having to navigate everything in a different language.
Yeah.
But it forced me to think in English all the time.
Right.
Even just for simple things like sending text messages or checking the weather.
It makes a big difference.
And I started picking up new vocabulary without even trying.
Just through exposure.
Exactly.
I did the same thing with my social media apps.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I switched them all to English.
How was that?
It was a bit overwhelming at first,
I bet.
but after a while I got used to it, and it really helped me improve my reading comprehension.
I could imagine.
And it also exposed me to a lot of slang and colloquialisms that I wouldn't have encountered otherwise.
That's so important for sounding natural.
It is.
So yeah, if you're serious about thinking in English, I highly recommend changing your language settings.
Yeah, even if it's just on one device or app to start.
Right. Start small and gradually increase your exposure.
Exactly.
It's all about creating that immersive environment.
Mm-hmm. Make English a part of your daily life.
Now, for our next tip, we're going to tap into the power of visualization.
Oh, this is a fun one.
It is. So the idea here is to think about situations in English before they happen. So, for example, let's say you're going to a restaurant.
Okay.
Before you even go, you can mentally rehearse the experience in English.
Like how?
You could imagine yourself walking into the restaurant, being greeted by the host, ordering your food, chatting with your friends.
Right.
And you could do this all in your head in English.
So it's like a mental dress rehearsal.
Exactly. And this helps you prepare for the actual situation. And it also trains your brain to think in English automatically.
It's a great way to practice without any pressure.
Yeah, and you can use this technique for all sorts of situations.
Like what?
Like job interviews, presentations, dates, anything.
Interesting.
So the next time you have something coming up, take some time to visualize it in English.
Yeah, see it, hear it, feel it.
Exactly. And you'll be amazed by how much more confident and fluent you feel when the real thing happens.
It's like magic.
It kind of is.
Now for our next tip, we're going to get a bit more practical
Okay.
and talk about the benefits of tracking your activities in English.
Ah, yes. Good old journaling.
It's a classic for a reason.
It really is. I used to keep a journal in English, and it helped me so much.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, for one thing, it forced me to write in English regularly, which is great for improving your grammar and vocabulary.
Yeah.
But it also helped me get into the habit of thinking in English because I was constantly processing my thoughts and experiences in the language.
That makes sense.
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can just jot down a few sentences about your day or your plans for the week.
Right. Or even just a list of things you're grateful for.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about getting those thoughts flowing in English.
And it's a great way to track your progress, too.
You can look back at your old entries and see how far you've come.
And that can be really motivating.
It can.
So if you're not already journaling, I highly recommend giving it a try.
Yeah, it's a really powerful tool for language learning.
Absolutely.
All right, our final tip for today is all about using technology to your advantage.
Oh, this is a good one.
And that is texting in English.
Ah, yes. This is such a simple but effective way to practice.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know, we're all texting all the time anyway.
Right.
So why not do it in English?
Exactly. It's a great way to get extra practice without even thinking about it.
I remember when I first started learning English, I used to text my friends who were also learning in English.
Oh, that's a great
It
idea.
was a fun way to practice, and it helped us stay motivated.
And it's less intimidating than speaking.
Yeah.
You have more time to think about what you want to say.
And you can use a dictionary if you need to.
Right.
Plus, texting exposes you to a lot of real-life language.
Yeah, like slang and idioms.
Exactly. So it's a great way to improve your vocabulary and your understanding of how English is actually used.
Absolutely. So if you're looking for a fun and easy way to practice English, start texting your friends in English.
Yeah, make it a challenge.
It's a great way to make learning more engaging.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
but the main takeaway is this. If you want to become fluent in English, you need to start thinking in English.
Absolutely.
And the tips we've shared today are all designed to help you do that.
Right, to make English a natural part of your daily life.
So start incorporating them into your routine and be consistent.
Yeah, consistency is key.
And remember, it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
There will be ups and downs, but don't give up.
No, keep practicing, keep learning, and you'll get there.
And before we wrap up, let's bring back our vocabulary expert, Charlotte, to break down some of the key terms we used today.
Yeah, Charlotte always has such great insights.
Charlotte, welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Thanks for having me.
So we've thrown around a lot of vocabulary today.
You have.
Can you help us clarify some of the key terms?
Of course. So let's start with the word enhance.
Okay.
To enhance something means to improve its quality or make it stronger.
Right.
So for example, if you want to enhance your English skills, you might try reading more books or watching more movies in English.
Makes sense.
Now, another important term we used today was game changer. A game changer is something that completely changes the way things are done or the way we think about something.
Right.
So in the context of language learning, thinking in English can be a real game changer because it allows you to communicate more fluently and naturally.
Exactly.
Now, we also talked a lot about processing thoughts.
Yeah.
This refers to the way our brains work to understand and make sense of information.
Right.
So when we talk about thinking in English, we're essentially talking about changing the way our brains process thoughts related to the language.
So instead of translating everything, we're processing it directly in English.
Exactly.
Now, another word we used was reflecting. What does that mean?
To reflect means to think deeply about something or to consider it carefully.
Right.
So in the context of language learning, you might reflect on your progress, your challenges, or your goals.
I see.
Now, we also talked about translating in your head, which is something that a lot of language learners do, especially when they're starting out. It's the process of mentally converting words or phrases from one language to another.
Right.
But as we discussed today, it's important to try to move away from this habit and start thinking directly in English.
Exactly.
Now, we also used an interesting idiom today. Catch up to a train that's already left the station.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
This idiom describes the feeling of being behind or missing out on something that has already progressed.
Right.
So in the context of a conversation, if you're constantly translating in your head,
Yeah.
you might feel like you're always trying to catch up to a train that's already left the station.
Because the conversation's moved on.
Exactly.
Now, we also talked about the importance of not overcomplicating things.
Right.
Can you explain what overcomplicate means?
To overcomplicate something means to make it more difficult or complex than it needs to be.
Right.
So when you're trying to think in English, try to keep things simple and straightforward.
Don't try to make perfect sentences right away.
Exactly. Just focus on getting your message across.
Now, another word we used was mundane. What does that mean?
Mundane means ordinary or everyday.
Right.
So mundane tasks are things like doing the dishes, making the bed, or grocery shopping.
Right.
But even though these tasks might seem boring, they can actually be great opportunities to practice thinking in English.
Yeah, just narrate what you're doing in your head.
Exactly.
Now, we also talked about the importance of Reinforcing your learning.
Yes.
What does that mean?
To reinforce something means to strengthen it or make it more durable.
Right.
So in the context of language learning, you can reinforce your knowledge by practicing regularly, using new words and phrases in different contexts, and immersing yourself in the language as much as possible.
I see.
Now, another important concept we discussed was second nature. Something that is second nature to you is something that you do automatically without even thinking about it.
Right.
So the goal of thinking in English is to make it so natural and effortless that it becomes second nature to you.
Exactly.
Now, we also talked about the importance of being able to think on your feet.
Yeah, that's a valuable skill.
Yeah. It is to think on your feet means to be able to think and react quickly in a situation without much time to prepare.
Right.
And this is especially important in conversations because you never know what someone is going to say.
So you need to be able to process information and formulate responses quickly.
Exactly.
And self-talk can be a great way to practice thinking on your feet.
Absolutely, because it forces you to come up with responses on the spot.
Now, Charlotte, we also mentioned the word immerse. What does that mean?
To immerse yourself in something means to surround yourself with it completely.
Right.
So in the context of language learning, immersing yourself in English means exposing yourself to the language as much as possible.
Through things like reading, watching movies, listening to music, and talking to native speakers.
Exactly.
And we also talked about mini immersion.
Yes.
What's that?
Mini immersion is a way to create a more limited or temporary immersive experience.
Right.
So, for example, changing the language settings on your phone to English can be considered a form of mini immersion.
Because you're exposing yourself to the language more regularly, even if it's just in small doses.
Exactly.
Now, we also mentioned the word navigate. What does that mean?
To navigate means to find your way around or to move through something successfully.
Right.
So when you first change your phone's language to English, you might find it a bit challenging to navigate the menus and settings.
But you'll get the hang of it.
You will.
Now, we also talked about the power of visualization.
Yes.
Can you explain what that means?
Visualization is the process of creating a mental picture of something.
Right.
So in the context of language learning, you might visualize yourself having a conversation in English or giving a presentation.
And this can help you feel more prepared and confident when the real situation happens.
Absolutely, because you've already practiced it in your mind.
Now, another word we used was mental rehearsal. What's that?
Mental rehearsal is a technique where you practice something in your mind before you actually do it.
Right.
It's like a mental run-through.
And it's a great way to prepare for important events or conversations.
It is.
Now, Charlotte, we also mentioned the word subtle. What does that mean?
Subtle means not obvious or easy to notice.
Right.
So the improvements you make in your English might be subtle at first, but over time they will become more noticeable.
Yeah, it's like a gradual process.
It is.
Now, another important word we used was impactful. What does that mean?
Impactful means having a strong effect or influence.
Right.
So keeping a journal in English can be an impactful way to improve your writing skills.
Because it forces you to practice regularly.
Exactly.
Now, we also talked about the importance of jotting down new words and phrases. What does jot down mean?
To jot something down means to write it quickly and briefly.
Right.
So if you come across a new word or phrase that you want to remember, just jot it down in a notebook or on your phone.
And you can review it later.
Exactly.
Now, we also mentioned that speaking English can sometimes feel intimidating.
Yes, especially for beginners.
What does intimidating mean?
Intimidating means frightening or threatening.
Right.
So if you're feeling intimidated about speaking English, try to find a supportive environment where you feel comfortable practicing.
Like a language exchange partner or an online community.
Exactly.
Now, we also talked a lot about fluency today. Can you define that for us?
Fluency is the ability to speak or write a language easily and accurately.
Right.
It's the ultimate goal for most language learners.
Yeah,
And it takes time and practice to achieve.
but it's definitely possible.
It is.
Now, another important factor in language learning is consistency.
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
Consistency means doing something regularly and without giving up.
Right.
So if you want to improve your English, it's important to practice consistently, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
Yeah, make it a habit.
Exactly.
Now, we also mentioned the importance of keeping your mind engaged.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Engaged means actively involved or interested in something.
Right.
So when you're learning English, try to find activities that keep you engaged and motivated.
Like watching movies, listening to music, or talking to native speakers.
Exactly.
Now, sometimes language learning can feel overwhelming.
Yes, especially if you're trying to do too much at once.
What does overwhelming mean?
Overwhelming means too much to deal with or too difficult to handle.
Right.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, try to break down your learning into smaller, more manageable chunks.
And don't be afraid to take breaks when you need them.
Exactly.
Now, we also talked about the importance of boosting your confidence.
Yes, confidence is so important in language learning.
It really is. What does boost mean?
To boost something means to increase it or make it stronger.
Right.
So you can boost your confidence in English by practicing regularly, celebrating your successes, and focusing on your progress.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
No mistakes are part of the learning process.
Now, another word we used was rehearse. What does that mean?
To rehearse means to practice something before you do it for real.
Right. So you might rehearse a presentation, a conversation, or even a job interview.
And this can help you feel more prepared and less nervous.
Absolutely.
Now, we also talked about the importance of immersing yourself in the language.
Yes.
But what does it mean to immerse yourself in something?
To immerse yourself in something means to surround yourself with it completely.
Right.
So if you want to immerse yourself in English, you might try watching English language TV shows, listening to English language music, reading English language books, and talking to native English speakers as much as possible.
It's all about creating that English-speaking environment.
Exactly.
Now, we also mentioned the importance of making English a practical part of your life.
Yes.
What does practical mean?
Practical means useful and relevant to real-life situations.
Right.
So finding practical ways to use English in your daily life can help you learn and improve much faster.
Like texting your friends in English or using English at work.
Exactly.
Now, we also talked about the importance of making English a natural part of your routine.
What does that mean?
It means incorporating English into your daily habits and activities so that it feels effortless and automatic.
Right.
So instead of seeing English as a chore, try to find ways to make it a fun and enjoyable part of your day.
Yeah, like listening to your favorite English language music while you're getting ready in the morning.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
Now, Charlotte, we also mentioned the word insightful. What does that mean?
Insightful means having or showing a deep understanding of something.
Right.
So insightful advice or feedback can help you learn and grow.
And we hope that our deep dives are insightful for you.
I'm sure they are.
Now, we also talked about our special resource.
Yes.
What is a special resource?
A special resource is something that is particularly valuable or helpful.
Right.
So our free PDF guide on thinking in English is a special resource that we've created for our listeners.
It's packed with tips, strategies, and vocabulary to help you improve your English.
Exactly.
Now, we also talked about how thinking in English can boost your confidence.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yes. To boost your confidence means to increase your belief in your own abilities.
Right.
So the more you practice thinking in English, the more confident you will become in your ability to speak and understand the language.
Exactly.
And finally, we asked you to stick around until the end of the deep dive. What does stick around mean? To stick around means to stay in a place or to continue doing something.
Right.
So we're glad that you stuck around for the entire deep dive.
We hope you found it helpful.
I'm sure you did.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Charlotte. That was super helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Charlotte.
So there you have it, guys. A deep dive into the art of thinking in English.
Yeah, we hope you found it useful.
Remember, the key is to be consistent on this. Make English a part of your daily life. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah, have fun with it.
And don't forget to download our free PDF guide, which is linked in the description below.
It's a great resource.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
And remember, your English learning journey doesn't stop here. Be sure to check out our other videos for more tips and insights.